Good evening or good morning and good afternoon from wherever you guys are listening. My name is Tamika Newhouse. I'm going to be your moderator today as we get ready to dive into Say Her Name and the meaning behind the hashtag, the meaning behind the movement. And we're going to dive into the stories of these featured ladies this evening. We have Kim Johsnon. She's the author of This Is My America. We have Leigh Davenport. She's a screenwriter, so she creates stories that we're able to see on the big screen as well as the small screen. She has written for websites such as Hello Beautiful, as well as new series such as Boomerang, which I'm really excited. I have actually loved that series. We have Miss Nick Stone, the literary rock star herself. She's actually rocking some very extravagant, wonderful earrings that we're going to get into. She's going to tell us the story behind that. We have Miss Kalisha Buckhanon, and she's also the writer of Speaking of Summer. And all of these ladies have unique voices that cater to the culture climate right now. And they also are one of the hundreds and thousands of Black female writers who are putting out forward-thinking stories. And they're also exposing unique backgrounds and some subjects that are sensitive to us. And I really appreciate you ladies for joining us. And I want to go ahead and allow you ladies to say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself. So Kim, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Even if virtually, I still feel the ancestral love that's happening over here. Yes. So we're going to let that fill us today. But yeah, I'm the author of This Is My America, which comes out July 28th. And it's a book that's dealing with a lot of the issues that are happening right now, looking at our criminal justice system. And it has a young girl who is at the helm of her story. And to me, it was really giving homage to the women who created, led, organized Black Lives Matter movements. And it's a story that does deal with the criminal justice system, but it also deals with how to actually use your voice, your power, your authority to make change. So,
Nick, take me into your journey.
Oh,
Tell me
girl.
about your stories.
Well, it started in October 2017 with Dear Martin, which I realized recently isn't even 3 years yet.
No.
My sixth book will publish at the end of September, and it's the sequel to Dear Martin. And I've just been kind of all over the place. Like I'm doing the criminal justice books, I'm doing the racism books, but I'm also writing Shuri for Marvel Comics. So it's just
Right.
It is a journey that I think of as like a highway with multiple lanes, and I'm just kind of hopping between them.
I like how you just let that slide in. Yeah, I'm writing a book for Marvel.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Wakanda forever. That's
Wakanda
the story
forever.
behind these earrings. These earrings were a commission from one of my friends. He commissioned this company is called Exalting in Beauty, and I have like a dozen pair of her earrings, and one of my friends commissioned some heart-shaped herb inspired ridiculous earrings. And
I see.
I love them.
It is very fitting. It's very fitting for you. You know, you have this huge personality, so it's very befitting of you. Miss Kalisha, take us into your journey. Tell us a little bit about you.
My name is Kalisha Buckhanon, and I have written several books. Only 4 have been published. The last one, Speaking Summer. First one upstate. Kind of started this really young. I've always been a creative and activist. And so, yeah, I'm writing more, and I do stories, essays, a blog that I kind of have been a little bit shy about publishing on because some of the things I'm saying are kitchen table talk. If you understand. It's that time where it's like, how do you filter, given the things you see. So, but I'm going to go ahead and back out for that. But yeah, just working all the time on a variety. Done a lot of theater work and teaching, a lot of educating. I've been working in classrooms in the inner city since college, since I was 18. And so that's near and dear to my heart. Summer camps.
Like a few years ago.
No, I wish.
You ladies speak about yourself so modestly. I love it. I love the
Is that
humility. And Leah, you have you have some, obtained some huge strides and been able to now tell stories for us to be able to visually see. Take us into your journey and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. My name is Leigh Davenport. I'm from Chicago, by way of Spelman in Atlanta, and then lived in Harlem.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, Spelman sis.
Hi, Spelman sister. Screech in the heart. And lived in Harlem 4 years ago to transition into screenwriting. I worked on a website, as you mentioned, called Hello Beautiful for years, telling stories about Black women, which has always been my passion. Telling stories about Black people has always been my passion. And since I've been out into LA, I did stuff on Boomerang. I just wrote a movie for Gabrielle Union called The Perfect Bind that's going to be on Netflix. And my own series, Run the World, is coming out on Starz. So it was actually supposed to be out in September, but COVID problems. So it'll be out in February of next year. Run the World follows 4 Black girls in Harlem, loosely inspired by my post-collegiate shenanigans, but just, following complex, interesting, dynamic Black women, on their quest for world domination.
Ma'am.
Right. Oh my God, I'm so blown away by your journey, and let's tap into the conversation itself. Say her name. I mean, we know this was a hashtag that really began to get power and become viral after Sandra Bland was tragically taken away from us. And we understand the importance of saying her name, as well as a lot of other African American women who have tragically lost their lives, known or unknown, have been violated physically, mentally, and emotionally. Can you take us into your stories? How do you, I guess, touch those sensitive spaces and build your characters and the experiences that they have succumbed to and had to live through? Can you take us into some of your characters and some of the stories that you have been able to put out there to us, to America? But it was a little bit hard to tell. It's a sensitive area. And I'm very curious how you were able to mask that challenge and face it forward and basically birth that character.
I feel like I should let everyone else who's like a much more intense writer than me take this. I would say briefly, and because I don't think this is my area to speak on that much, but I am a comedy writer primarily. I write, with levity. And my personal kind of belief is that though we endure trauma, Black lives are not all trauma. And so, at least for me, when I approach writing complex female characters, they encounter the world as we encounter the world, but that world does not define, how they interact, who they are. I tend to try to stay away from things that are so direct, because it's not funny if it's that direct. I'm a comedy writer, like I said. I think there's definitely, a need for all versions of our stories. But I'm in the business of, encountering race, looking at it, finding what's absurd about it, pointing that out, commenting on it, and keeping it moving. Is I think that's how most of us survive.
Teach me your ways. Like, sounds amazing. It's interesting. Like, in my work, so of the 6 books that are published, only 2 of them have like a singular Black female protagonist, because in a lot of ways, it's hard to tell our stories because they're still so raw. I think about Say Her Name. I think about where Say Her Name came from. And I think about why Say Her Name is important, right? Like, it was birthed out of this need to highlight the fact that not only Black men were being killed by police, you know, Black women and Black girls were also being harmed and brutalized. But Tamika, you and I, we have a mutual friend who had a police brutality incident, just last year, I think, a female friend. And those things are hard to look at. It's actually easier for me to write about boys. Number one, because I have them. Like I haven't seen a woman up close and personal in a really long time. I'm in a house. The only female in my house is me, my beautiful husband, and our 2 sons.
Right.
So like I occasionally will encounter like a woman and I'll be like, oh, hi, you have the same equation that I do. This is amazing. But the other thing is it gives me a little bit of emotional distance, and that probably sounds terrible, but the 2 stories I have written about Black girls took a lot out of me. Shuri actually wasn't that terrible because I got to write a Black girl like me who is living her best life, who is like celebrated for the things that she loves, where I was kind of denigrated and made fun of for my love of science in middle and high school. But Shuri is a character who, like, her love of science saves the world over and over again. So even having the opportunity to write this Black girl who's the smartest person on earth, who is celebrated for the things that she loves, and who is getting to exist in a space without the overt oppression that the 5 of us certainly deal with on a daily basis in our lives here in America, has been great. So I'm still figuring out how to do it. Like, I'm still figuring out how to write our stories in a way that doesn't re-traumatize me,
right,
therefore won't re-traumatize the reader, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I'm really connected
to.
Go ahead, Kalisha.
Oh, I can't see the. Okay, yeah. Speaking of the re-trauma, I think that's kind of even why I just backed off a lot of things I'm writing, and as creative, some things can be for ourselves. It doesn't all have to be commercial. We're writers. That's what So re-trauma. I've gone into more details in an interview about some of the things I've experienced. But sometimes, you don't want to go there. I have had, and we all have obviously had extraordinary, beautiful, blessed lives. And we maybe don't want to always, like you said, kind of probe those places.
Right.
But as Black women, we are into a heritage of that, where that mandate has been set for us, and it's not set for others. And we've answered the call of duty, but it's not all of who we are. We've had beautiful, extraordinary lives, Black women, Black sisters. And I think what we're seeing now in the variety of film, TV, books, especially the YA space, the movie space, is diversity and range in the parts of our lives that we can probe, which for us will most likely always include some stuff, no matter what.
Right.
But that's not the focus and core of the stories.
Yeah, and I'll just, add to it, really similar with something that, Nick said, and Kalisha, it is difficult to be so in it and tell those stories. I've been an activist since I was, very young, engaged, always sort of saw myself involved in issues, that were core and important to me. And for me, I feel like that's the reflection of how I try to say her name. I think empower women, young women, at the sort of the helm of the story. And I think a lot about, I followed Kimberly Crenshaw's work on intersectionality and just even the creation of thinking about say her name, and the things that she talks about, which I think that we're all sort of tackling in different ways in our work, is that we want to support are Black men who are experiencing, adverse effects of brutality and criminalization. And often it is at the sake of ourselves who are also experiencing that, and we don't talk about some of the gender components that hit us in different ways. And when we talk about femininity or representing trans lives or other kinds of things, they always sort of come into this as this other space, and it almost seems so difficult to write for me personally, because what aspect do I tackle? Do I if there's a story that is so real and raw, who am I harming in that story by adding on to additional stereotypes that might occur? And I think because there's so many sensitivities that are there, how do I tackle it? I think it is something that I will tackle very directly, because I am that kind of writer that I want to talk about issues that impact women, Black women specifically, in a lot of different ways, from looking at criminal justice to looking at joy to looking at our possibilities. And so I think for me, in terms of the reflection of the work that I did in This Is My America, is I wanted young Black girls growing up to feel like they were powerful. That they, that no matter what their circumstance is, that they can take whatever that issue is and they can do something about it, and they can be the agent of their story, which is the thing that I didn't see when I was growing up. I didn't have a chance to be, the lead in the story. I was the side character, if anything. And so I wanted that. The other thing that I really wanted to represent in the story that I think just doesn't happen a lot, is that, I think for Black women, there often is this image of that we do have to be so strong. Right. There are these issues. We're thinking of others. We have to take care of our community. We have to take care of our family, our children, all of those other things. And we don't take care of ourselves. And it was important for me. Yeah. I'm the worst at it too.
Yeah. Odd. Everyone's like, yeah.
We're like, yeah, you're right.
And it was really important to me that my main character was able to find love in a lot of different ways, and not just one way, but they actually had choices with how they wanted to engage in that, because we often just don't even get that, right? We're too strong, we can do things on our own, and I really wanted to balance that, in my storytelling. And I think the other thing that I really honor is that a lot of women are the ones who are holding it down, but their story isn't told. Their story isn't told about how they actually keep the family unit together, how they just keep going. And because of that, we can find joy when something bad happens, because there are women in our community who tie us together and allow us to have laughter, to enjoy, all aspects of our life, and not just be sort of steeped in issues that might be because of trauma or other kinds of things. So.
And Kim, you spoke on so many great issues, and also how they classify Black women. And we're Black young girls at one time, and now we're grown Black women who are mothers, who are daughters, who are wives. And then we're also influencers, because now we tell stories that will influence people for many, many, many years. Young girls, older women, young boys, older men, Black, white, and different. Can you take us into who you are? How do you make sure, or how do you navigate through life? Let me put it this way, because at 34, I'm still figuring it out myself.
Girl.
I have a 17-year-old daughter. I have a 13-year-old son, and I predominantly raised them on my own, along with dreaming out loud and pursuing my goals and manifesting these things for myself. You can just imagine those private moments I had to experience to kind of push myself through, because as they state, we're supposed to be strong. We're not supposed to cry. And often a lot of the weight is put on us when it comes to our families, and when it comes to our children, and making sure they grow, and we're great examples to them. And being a creative, we're already, our brains are already wired in so many different dynamics and complexities, and sometimes we're still trying to make it make sense to ourselves. Take us into those private moments. Tell me a little bit about who you are, what your name means to you, now that you are on this journey of influence.
Yeah, really powerful what you said, especially in just thinking about manifestation, which
Yes.
I am a true believer in it, finding your purpose and making it happen. And I think I think for probably a lot of Black women is that sort of is what drives us to do more, because we want more. I want more in my life. I want more for my kids, and sort of building that future. And, I think, I am someone who is supposed to be doing this work. I never knew, sort of like as a young person and growing older and trying to figure out like what my purpose is, sort of this constant journey of figuring out what I'm supposed to do. And for me, I was always a storyteller. I never believed that I was a writer. And I didn't. I'm 41 now. I started writing at 32 because I was looking for myself.
Right.
I was working, I'm a full-time professional. I work in higher ed. I worked at universities for almost 20 years and do a lot of support to students and helping them be the best person. Mm-hmm. And it really was my students that inspired me to not forget about that I was someone who had dreams and hopes before I started my career, before I, got married, yep. Now I have 2 kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 13-year-old. Mm-hmm. Is that I still want to be, this fire of a person that I'm supposed to be, and because of all these sort of, being married and responsibility with work, that I too can dream. And it really was, that's what drove me to start writing and to sort of take away my sense of what I thought a writer was. And what I was told what a writer was growing up, where I just was like, I didn't even want to invest in the concept of writing because it just felt too detailed, or there was just so much of a gap that I needed to learn. And I think that it was going inward in me and finding that like sort of creative space within myself that I could write how I wanted to write. And I didn't, even now, publishing wasn't actually a dream. I didn't think it was possible. Like it, like, no, for me, it was like, I just wanted to tell stories, and I felt like a strong sense of fulfillment in it. And now that I'm in this space with my story in this moment, I think everything else that has led up to it, and me, looking for my purpose, feeling that I'm supposed to be part of the community. Now I'm really realizing I'm supposed to be part of a even larger community than I ever was before. And it's the power of story and my experiences that are, I think going to get me to where I'm supposed to be, which is, I think, where I want to be.
See, we don't even know. We're trying to figure it out as we go.
I'm still, kind of questioning how, visible I really want to be, but owning that. So.
And Nick, can you jump in? Take us into your name. Like, who are you? Like, I know you may be like, I don't know. This is a prime example of why we need to talk about it.
Yeah, look, I will be honest with you. Like, I don't have no idea, especially right now. Like, COVID-19 has thrown so many things into a blender. Like, I go to therapy twice a week at this point. Right. I have therapy this morning. I have therapy Thursday morning. Like, Tuesday, Thursday, I'm in there on the couch like, bitch, I have no idea what's happening. But me and my therapist are very, very close at this point, because buddies. I spend so much time just trying to kind of like get through each day. And I think, though, that that's okay, right? Mm-hmm. Something that I've been working on over the past year in therapy with this particular therapist is just getting okay with life being inconsistent. Like, there at no point will anything stay the way that it is, and being okay with changing my mind, being okay with feeling great one day and not great the next, being okay with kind of negative self-talk and hearing it, but not letting it drive my actions. Like, those are the kind of things that Nick Stone is working on right now. And just being as fully human as I possibly can as I go through this kind of never ceasing transformation. Like, every day we evolve into a different version of who we are. And honestly, I won't even say that like there's a who I'm becoming. I'm just always going to be who I am. And that is always going to be a person who is changing. And I think my goal in my stories is to validate that. Like I think about one of my books that has a Black female protagonist has actually 3 protagonists. There's a Black boy, an Afro-Latinx girl. Well, she's actually biracial. Her mother was Black, her father is Cuban. And then a biracial Chinese Irish girl. But the Black girl in this book is queer, like I am. And just having the space to tell this story about a girl who thinks she has herself figured out, but then discovers that maybe she doesn't. Like, I think those kinds of stories are also wildly important because this question is vital to our survival. But I think that the answer isn't as cut and dried as anybody wants it to be. I am a person who is personing, and like I'm just going to continue to people and be complex and be messy, and I'm gonna hurt people. People are gonna hurt me. It's just, kind of a part of life.
It's a part
and
of
the stories, the stories that come out of it pay my bills, basically.
Yeah. I like how you put that. I've been having these conversations even with my own daughter about our imperfections or not being sure, not being certain. The key is to be okay with that and figure it out as you go versus, crawling up into a ball and feeling down or feeling defeated or feeling lost, because life is all about choices and experiences. And it's forever evolving. So what are you going to do? Go into this box, never come out? Not challenge yourself in spaces because you're afraid? Like, what are we going to do? So for me, it's like, I face it head on. And, again, going back to the manifestations, like the things I want to happen, I make sure I put myself around certain individuals, or I read and I listen this type of these stories and this music. I feed my soul and my energy things that I want, to happen, and for things I want to be in front of me. And Leigh, let me go into your journey. You have now been able to take your stories out visually and put them onto the screen, and for us to be able to see the dynamics of these characters. Take us into a little bit of who you are. What does your name mean to you, and how have you challenged and taken your experience into your creativity?
Oh, okay. Well,
right, with these questions.
Deep. No one told me it was gonna be this deep. All right, let me get ready.
No, I said I was gonna dive in deep.
This week. It's funny. I always felt like I was a writer and a storyteller, and I've always been writing, whether it was journalism or pursuing magazines or, kind of, I thought, I'm old enough that I thought I was going to be able to be a magazine editor, which completely evaporated by the time that, that was a job. But I think, the whole writing for screen thing, to your kind of the conversation, like, that wasn't something I saw, and I've always been very like clear of vision, like I'm going to move to New York and I'm going to work in magazines, or I'm going to do this. And, everyone was always like, oh, did you not do what you were supposed to do? Like what you really wanted to do because you were afraid? And I'm like, oh no, I was doing what I thought I wanted to do. It just turns out then I wanted to do this. And I didn't know that I was going to want to do this. And I really want to do this. This is actually definitely what I should have been doing.
This is way better. What was I thinking?
Everything. This combines all of my talents and all of my gifts and all of my interests. But I didn't know, that this was going to be what I ended up wanting. I mean, I think, the death of publishing was a huge kind of impact on me. The internet is an awful, horrible place. I'm sorry if you feel differently, but after working on the internet for 7 years, I will just tell you the internet's a horrible place. And I felt like, for me, where could I go to tell stories that I felt like actually were still great impact? And I feel that, you know, it's undeniable that movies and television still truly impact the way people see themselves, the way people talk about the way that they see themselves. You know, for me growing up, it was like the Cosby Show. That's what I had. That made me a valid Black person in the world. And like, I had that, you know, but that was it.
Right,
and for so much of my life, I kept being like, where are the rest of the girls like me? You know, like, where are my friends? And where I still, you know, where are we? And that's really what led me to want to write for screen and to put different types of images of Black women on screen. You know, I felt like I was seeing the same kind of superhero trope of a, you know, the single mom who works 8 jobs, and, you know, and like, kudos to her. I mean, my daughter is 14 months, and if you're doing this alone, like, God should come down and bestow all the blessings. So it's, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, for real. But that wasn't what I wanted to necessarily go and be entertained by, you know, like, I felt like I would go to Black film festivals and literally leave traumatized and like needing a tequila shot.
Right.
Do we not laugh? Do we not smile? Are we not? I'm like, I have lots of happy people and joy, you know, I mean, we find joy through the pain. And I just was like, where's the joy? Like, where's the other stuff that makes us? And that was like, when I was like in search for that. And I was like, well, if no one's going to do it, then I'm going to quit my job and move to California and do it myself. So I did that.
Love it.
Wow. Yeah, those couple of years weren't fun, but
it worked out though.
Those were well, that's a whole other chat. But on the other side of that has been some amazing opportunities to write some amazing Black stories and to work with all kinds of incredible people I never imagined I'd be sitting across from the table from. And most importantly, to be writing my own series. You know, it's just like, I want women to, you know, sit down on Sundays and watch an episode of Run the World and feel like they got their therapy and their glass of wine and their giggle and their little like hot man or hot woman candy or whatever it is, and just like be able to release, you know, if we're going to be fighting this forever war of social justice and racial justice and feminist, you know, justice, like, to be able for 30 minutes to sit down and be like, girl, did you see, you know, and like, and have a good time. You know, I grew up in a very political family in Chicago. My whole family's from the South Side of Chicago. So that's that. So like all of that all over me. And so, you know, there's always subtext in everything that I do, but I feel like we're such a vibrant people, and I feel like we're such a joyous people, and I feel like there's not enough of the joy in the presentations visually of what our lives are like.
Right.
You know, I feel like we are all surviving all the time. That's Blackness as a condition is a meaning to be in a constant state of survival, because there's a constant level of threat at all times. So what's beyond that, right, is like literal joy. And, you know, and like Black Twitter is so good to me because it's so smart, right? Like, it's so quick and inventive, and like there's something so resilient about its ability to take anything, and make it funny, right? And fast and smart. And like, I like marvel at how amazing people can be, you know, like, and that's a part of us. Like, that's those things, that's what gets me hype about storytelling. Like, that part of us that like just makes us a little bit cooler and a little bit doper and a little bit, you know, dare I say, the best out. Like, those
you do there.
Those are the things that make me excited about writing for screen specifically, which is a very different medium than, you know, writing books and writing, you know, serious articles about things. But, you know, the idea of what am I depicting? It's like, I want you to see that moment when a homegirl looks at a homegirl and they didn't say anything, but they said everything. That's what I try to, that's what I like to capture.
And Kalisha,
if that answers your question.
you did an excellent explanation of that, because based, especially with the last line, it's one thing we could write these stories with our words and write out these emotions, which is another process. But to get those emotions to transfer onto the big screen and the small screen is a whole other process, especially when you are having to work with other creatives and other spaces. Actors are creative. They have to, attach themselves to the emotion that you're wanting, to be projected. So it's a process. And I imagine that journey itself, when it all comes together, it's kind of like you just won $1 million, the lottery, got some type of gold. Like
it's crazy. I mean, it's
feeling.
such a crazy thing, because it takes at least 100 people to make an episode of television. You know what I mean? And so, when you think about how many people are involved in doing this thing, and everyone matters. Every single person on that set matters, and so you really do have to have a special cocktail of, awesomeness to pull it out. But when it works, it really works. And, we shot our pilot in December before the world ended. And
before the world
ended. And it's magic. We all know it's magic. Stars picks up right away. And we're just so excited, supposedly, to get back to New York in October to start filming again, and share it with the world. I think we need it right now, really bad.
Well, I definitely am excited about your journey, and definitely keep us attached to your projects and everything that you're doing. Now that you're a part of our AA and BC family, we want to be nosy and stuff.
Thank you so much for reaching out to me. I'm so honored to be a part of this. Thank you, guys.
And Kalisha, I wanted to jump into your journey. I wanted to talk about a little bit of again, just like the ladies dived into their creative process, told us a little bit about who they were, and how they challenged their creative spaces. Take us into your creative space. Take us into who you are. What does your name mean to you, and what stories are you making sure that you tell?
My name comes from Good Times, because there was a producer on there. Yeah, there was a producer named Irma Kalish, and that was the show. And my grandmother was like, we're trying to come up with name and everything, and so when I was little and or about to be born, and so so that's where I was. Good Times is my name, and then my grandmother's middle name and all that. And she was like, what about Kalisha? Because she had just watched an episode of Good Times when my mom was about to go in labor.
I love it. Well, hey, from a classic show that influenced a whole generation. So I'm with it.
For real.
It's like, so no, I've been blessed to not have to, I haven't changed anything. I'm literally the same person that I was when I remember my father, who was a night owl like I am, knocking on my door at like 12 or 13, I guess, hearing things or seeing lights and thinking, oh my God, is the boy under the bed or out of the window? And it's like, I'd be in there writing or inventing something. I thought I was writing. I don't know what I was doing. And so I'm like, I don't know what I was doing in there, writing or reading something I shouldn't have been reading. And so I'm still doing that, like at 3, like, it's like, what are you doing, Kalisha? And so, so that hasn't really changed. But I have to say that my introduction into publishing was traumatic, because I was young, very young, coming out of an MFA, and just had my MFA thesis that I didn't think anybody would even read kind of snatched up and circulated. And I was not clear the extent to which imagination is denied for Black people in terms of the world needing to locate a space of pain and trauma for you in order to connect to your work. And so I was running around with this book. Yeah, because I was an educator. I'd worked in kids in Harlem and Windy City. I'm there now. But I was in Harlem, and teaching had been my bread and butter. These kids had saved my life because I was going through a lot, and I looked forward to these beautiful kids. And a story sprouted out of that. You know, God put this story in my heart about a Black boy in jail and a Black girlfriend in Harlem who was not. And so 10 years of their story and all that and what happens and him in jail, them writing these letters. And I lost so many opportunities. I kid you not. I lost so many opportunities, big opportunities, because I would be vetted for these opportunities in advance, this covert discrimination. And when it became clear to various editors, not publisher editors, I had that, but media editors and editors, that I personally didn't have any close prison story in my life. I mean, we all know people in prison, come on. But right. They were looking for almost an exact match of these lives, where these children had these difficult lives, which I definitely had difficulties in my childhood. And they had these traumas. And I had direct questions about who I knew in prison. And then there was one major profile that I was supposed to get. And literally the publicist called and said, well, they looked at your website and all that, and they saw that you went to the University of Chicago and you didn't grow up in Harlem. You grew up in a small little farm factory town outside of Chicago, Kankakee. I don't know if you know that. And I was like, well, what does that have to do with the book? And so that's been something, yeah. And it was taken away after it was done. And this has happened to many other Black writers. And so,
think about
holding on.
Wrote the migrant book. Oh God, what's it called, guys, that came out?
Right? American Dirt.
Yes.
American Dirt.
That's insane. Listening to your story.
Yeah. You wrote fiction, not non-fiction.
We can't have imaginations. Like, you can't do research and have an imagination.
Yes. Yes, it was the same publisher, and it's like, okay, but I was Black. All the main characters were Black.
Like, at least I'm
Black. And I'm like, I think I know what it's like to be a Black girl growing up, trying to go to college. I think I know what it's like to love Black men. I think I know all these things. Why does my life have to match up to these characters? And so that's why I have to say, Tamika, I was very disappointed that, it's a small disappointment in the grand scheme of disappointments people are having now. But I was really looking forward to, coming out to this Black Writers Weekend, because I had always seen it from afar, but my schedule hadn't matched up and things like that. And it looked like y'all were kicking it. And I'm like,
we was.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, they are kicking it. Like, they are partying, they're smiling, they got the red carpet, which also Curtis Bunn does with the National Book Club conference I was supposed to go to. Yeah, and I said, okay, I can do these both with the paperback, because we're kicking it. We're smiling, we're celebrating ourselves, we're dressed up, we're having fun, we're on stage, the red carpet, I think, and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, we're not sitting around talking about all the bad things that have happened to us in our lives and our characters. This is Black joy and fun and everything that we should be. And why don't we have more of this? And so I was very, just in the future, because I've always wanted to come to this, because it looked like, whoa, they're treating Black writers like stars and like imaginations and workaholics and creatives, like you treat actors, where they don't have to be the elephant man to play the elephant man, or they don't have to be disabled to play that. And so it was beautiful. And so thank you, Tamika, for having that kind of spirit with our work and understanding we don't have to, we want to, because that's who we are, and we can't escape that. Supporting our parents. Yeah, supporting our parents, our grandparents, our communities, the people in our church through the racism they were going through when we were children and we had to hear about it. That started our activism.
Yeah.
We've been doing this since we were babies.
Right.
That started it. We don't have to do it every second,
I love that you brought up that Black Writers Weekend. It's fun. They're partying and drinking and hanging out, and that's always been, well, not technically the partying and drinking, but the having fun.
Turn up.
The having fun part has always been the core of every event I've curated since 2009. I wanted people to know that writers, we're interesting, we're fun. Where we have these boisterous and loud, these vibrant personalities. And without us, honestly, and Leigh, you can vouch to this, without the writer, you won't have the film, you won't have the TV show, you won't even have the commercials or the songs that you enjoy. It all starts with the written word. But I wanted people to really attach themselves to the creator of those words. Often we're not celebrated, often we're not talked about, and then often our stories and our culture are taken and they put other faces on it. So where it's more inviting or it's more aesthetically
broader.
pleasing. Yeah, it's more of a broader reach.
Broad is the word around
right.
here.
That's a little
broad.
Yeah, let's make it, they use those terms to make it seem like it's okay, that they want to now take our identity and take our culture and our experiences, our joys, our pains, our highs and our lows, and make it theirs. And I love the fact that you ladies are now contributing to what not only what I have been wanting to do all of my career, being a literary activist, of just televising our stories, publicizing our stories, celebrating our writers and our creatives, understanding the dynamics and the stories behind the stories that they're creating, and doing it in a way that obviously Hollywood or the film industry, or film festival, music industry, the way that they embrace their artists, because we're artists too. And we deserve the same type of celebration platform as well. So Black Writers Weekend, let me do my shameless plug. It will be back next summer, and it's full festivities and having all the parties and the socials, because if Lord willing, the world will still be here and COVID will be behind us. And we are now embracing our new normal, and we can actually physically hug and see each other again. So again, thank you for that.
Oh, one can only hope.
Yeah, I can only hope. Now, I know our conversation is going to start winding down, and I want to mention that this conversation is being supported by Amazon KDP, which is a publishing source for books, and also it's a source for people to launch their stores and distribute all of their stories and their audiobooks and their films. They got the Amazon Prime and things going on. So Amazon is really began to be like this extreme giant in every way imaginable. And I wanted to ask you ladies about your highest points, the area where you feel like you're most proud of yourself, something that you accomplished where you feel like, dang, I really did that. Like, you have to kind of sit back and be like, I did that. Let me pat myself on the back. I don't want to cuss, but I'm the shit. I did that. That's me. Like, I did that. Like, I want to talk and I want to dive into that space. Tell us about your biggest accomplishment, something that was transitional for you, where you feel like the late nights, the research, the sacrifices, it was starting to make a little bit more sense for you. Kalisha, since you on the mic, you go first.
I don't know. I have been so blessed with this writing. I tell everybody I have gotten more out of writing than I ever thought I would. I thought I was just going to be in my room doing my thing. It's hard because I've had so many of these moments where I was like, wow, because I thought maybe when I was retired and, all my hair was gray, that somebody would send me a letter that wasn't a rejection letter. And yeah, non-rejection, and publish my work. That's what the vision I had, but it just didn't work out that way. It just worked out that I just was dedicated, I guess. I don't know, lucky, out of school at a young age. I don't know. It's been so where I've met people and I'm like, wow, I'm still a fan, I'm still a huge fan. I meet people that I consider them my friends now, and I'm still starstruck by them, or I'm still chasing after, some writer to get their, oh, can I please have my book signed? I don't know. A huge moment for me, though, in terms of finally understanding something was happening was when I went to the National Book Club conference for the first time in 2006. And they had this thing you offer, which is a red carpet. I wasn't running around being an expert on the prison system and all of that, and hearing people cry and talk about, oh my God, this is so sad. And I'm like, you didn't think it was funny? I thought it was funny. I thought it was sexy. I thought it was a love story, but okay. So I went to the National Book Club conference because I got Terry McMillan an award, a friend of hers who happened to be a subject I had interviewed, the great Black publicist Terry Williams, who she was like a mentor to me in Harlem. Yeah, I had given my book to Terry McMillan, and said, do you know this book? And Terry McMillan and Terry Williams were both involved with helping boys in prison, and in the system. And she read that book and was always speaking at the book club conference anyway. But she said, I'm giving this child an award. I was like, okay, in my name. I'm like, okay. She's like, I'm making up this award and I'm giving it to this child for this book. And so I hurried up and got ready to go to Atlanta, and I went out there, and it still wasn't really like a big deal because you get criticized as a writer, you get all pressure to write the next book, and so the moment that I kind of said something is strange was when she got up and talked about, and it's like I bring tears to my eyes now to even think about it. And I went with my agent, whom you really look like my old agent, Tracy Sherrod. You guys favor a lot.
Tracy,
and so I'm thinking of it, vivid. Yeah, you guys favor a lot. So I'm thinking back to that moment where she got up, and I'm a cool person. I'm business-like, professional, cool. I work hard. But she got up and she told this big audience, mostly there to see her. They didn't care about me. She just talked about me in this book, and I looked around and I said, she's talking about me. And I just started crying, and I was embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God, this is so corny. But I could, and that's when I finally realized, so people are reading this, and this is really good. Not because I didn't think my teachers and parents and publisher and all that, but it was just because somebody you have that moment. Like when you think of because they don't broadcast the Pulitzers, they don't broadcast, you see the Emmys, you see the Oscars, and you have that moment that you've seen on TV where someone you've admired gets up and talks about you. Yeah. And so that was, I kind of lost it, but I've had a million more, but I guess that leaps to mind in the context of what you do and what we've been talking about the variety of our stories. He doesn't write anything like, Upstate was. It's activism in a different way and a different narrative, but still the intersection of power between our stories. It was amazing.
That's a great story. And it's crazy that you mentioned Terry McMillan. She was my why to when I discovered that you could be a literary rock star. I was 12 years old when my mother took me to go see How Stella Got Her Groove Back. Don't judge her. I know it was rated R. But she took me to go see How Stella Got Her Groove Back on a sex
progressive. Progressive.
I would like to see this on a sex part. So I kept my adolescence for a little while longer. But my uncle had told me when I was talking, I had loved it. I was like, oh, that was great. That was a good movie. And when they stated that was a book that was written by a Black woman, and of course I didn't know that Waiting to Exhale a couple years prior was also written by her. But that's when I discovered that, wait a minute, a Black woman did that? Like we could do that? And I was 12. And I remember telling my mother, and I said, oh, wait, I'm gonna do that too. Because I had already handwritten my very first novel. And I had told my mom, I said, Mama, I'm going to move to Atlanta and I'm going to become a full-time writer. And again, back to manifestation and your words being powerful. And it was something that, I had my trials and my traumas and things that led me to my ultimate journey. But I eventually took that journey, packed up my children, packed up my place, and by the time I was 26, moved to Atlanta. And I think by 23, though, I had quit my job, dropped out of college, and hadn't worked a job since. And I have been blessed enough to still not have to work a job, still living at that dream. So Tech Millen, she was the one for me that made me believe that, wait, Black girls could do this. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. I want to do that too. So that was my, my journey too, as far as my inspiration. So that's kudos. We got some connection there. Leigh, take me into your greatest accomplishment.
It's funny because I feel like it the process of writing things in Hollywood, there's so many moments, and and every moment just begets like another moment of something else you're supposed to do next. And so it's hard to ever know when to celebrate anything. Like I'd be like, do we celebrate now? And
right.
Like, oh, wait, but not like, it's like I'm always waiting for like, when's it gonna feel like the thing, And I don't think that's happened for me quite yet. I mean, I think the thing will, when I
Excuse me, you got a show on Stars, girl.
No, I'm saying when I see it. I think that's what I'm saying. Like, when I see it air,
okay.
Like, that'll be like, oh, I think that'll be it. I think now I'm always still living. And it's like, okay, well, I just have to write another episode, or, we've got to turn in another thing, or we've got to cast another thing. But I will say, I quit my job in New York when I was 31, so I was late to kind of all of a sudden decide I wanted to change my whole life. And I was living in a beautiful brownstone and making good money. And my parents were like, are you what's, happening? But I was like, I'm going to make this happen in 2 years. Like in 2 years, I'm going to make it happen. And if not, I have a very great career and I can get a job and I will, do that. But I have to give this a try. And when I got here, you meet everyone. It's like, I've been here for 7 years and I haven't this. And I know people have been here for 10 years and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Like,
well, you're not me.
Telling you like, you need to be an assistant and all of that. And I remember talking to a friend who was telling me like, I don't really think you should even try to sell your show. You should just try to get staffed on something. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I was like, I prayed really hard about this move and about this was what I was supposed to do. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I didn't hear God wrong.
Right.
Like I'm going to go with like, I think
that's not it.
After all of that soul searching and how difficult it was for me to give up New York, which I love the most, this was right. And I will say like being able to look back last year, I had my daughter, I sold my show, I wrote 2 movies, and I done it in 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what?
Amen.
You did that, girl.
Right, let me clap like I snap like me.
Like, you did that. I think all the fun lights, camera, action stuff is still to come, and I'll, ask me.
And you just said your daughter and you're a new mom, so you're learning that journey along.
Yeah, it's very different writing a script with a baby than it is without a baby. So I was like, oh, this is not
until they get older.
Well, this is different.
Same process. This was so much easier before you were here. Let me go hide in the closet. But yeah, I mean, I think most of the good stuff. It's weird. COVID was this was supposed to be a huge year for me.
Huge year, yeah.
Like huge, like
yeah.
And so it's like,
and God was like, man, take a seat real quick.
Yeah, I feel like Nick a little bit, where I'm like, really, like this is okay, yeah, like what?
Yeah.
It's giving you time. Sorry to interrupt. It is giving you time to bond with your beautiful child, perhaps in a way.
And that I was not going to have
been on the run.
I would not have had this time. And I tell everyone I'm eternally grateful, because the way my schedule was supposed to be, I just would not have had the time that I've had, with my daughter as she kind of transitioned into one, and that is invaluable. And so I appreciate, COVID for that. But there's this weird sense of like warning, what you thought was supposed to. I mean, I feel so bad for everyone who had like book come out or a show. My friend Jenny wrote an amazing YA novel that was like preemptively purchased and was in all the like book list, and then she was supposed to go on a book tour, and it was like cancel. You know, and I think everyone's dealing with a lot of deferred anticipation. So I hate to like, you know, I think there's all these things that I would have loved to say happened to me this year that were great. But just that I'm even here is such a blessing. I'm so grateful for my daughter and for my amazing partner. And, you know, we're just one day at a time. We're healthy, and I'm still working, and I'm still working on something I love, and I don't have to work for anybody I don't want to work for. And
I know that's right.
That's all of the joy, you know?
I know that's right. Nick, take us into your greatest accomplishment.
And mine's really simple. I got a DM on Instagram from a kid named Jabari shortly after Dear Martin came out. This is probably December 2017. Told me he was reading it. He'd never read a book before, that he was really enjoying it. And then I said, cool, let me know when you finish. And he wrote me back the next day, actually, and said that he had finished. It's the best book he's ever read, to which I wanted to be like, but you just said you had never I will know, Jabari, you got it, baby. Like, I will take the compliment. And then he asked me if I would come to his school, and I did. I went to his school. I told him the stipulation was that if I came to his school, he had to be the person to interview me in front of his classmates. Wow. I showed up. He's got on jeans, a short sleeve button down, a bow tie, and like some fresh Jordan 11s.
Oh, he dressed up.
I love him. Dressed up. Go Jabari.
And just watching this kid blossom over reading, over having accomplished something he'd never accomplished before, will always be tops for me. Like, anytime I frequently get handwritten letters or cards from kids in the mail, just thanking me for the work, telling me they felt seen. Those are the moments I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to.
Yeah, that was a beautiful story. I love that. And I'm pretty sure you have hundreds of more in interactions with children who you inspire. So that's pretty amazing, Nick. I love that. I love what you're doing, inspiring, and getting children, you know, to come out of their shell through your story. So that was beautiful. Kudos to you. And Miss Kim.
Yeah, I mean,
your greatest accomplishment.
Yeah, it's you know, the biggest one I think is where I felt like my family finally understood what I was trying to do, and that's when I got on a list for Essence magazine.
Oh,
and it, you know, and it was like I've been in other things. Even me and Nick, probably my biggest accomplishment was being in an interview with Entertainment Weekly with Nick. That probably was my biggest accomplishment. But the one that I felt most seen, sort of like pumped me up, was just then. That's when my mom called me right away when I sent them I send them all this stuff that I'm on, like, oh, I'm on this list, I'm going to do this thing. And they're like, oh, that's great, honey, you know. But that was like the first time my mom called me, and she was like, ooh, you in Essence. And so that to me was the biggest one. And, you know, I try to be a really positive person. And, you know, it is hard being a debut like this. Like, I worked so hard to get an agent, to get a publisher. You know, I was supposed to go on lots of tours in person, and I felt like I was going to have all of these things. And then COVID hit, but then you just adapt, you know? And so for me now, I'm just looking at any of the moments, and I'm really looking forward to, you know, my book being out, and then hearing from readers, because I work with young people all the time. That's my profession. That's my career that I'm doing. And this writing is a new one for me. And to tie those two together, I think that's where I'll feel that like big accomplishment. But yeah, it was my mom saying like, "Ooh, girl, you in Essence." So I was like, "Ooh, that's right, mama."
Mama made it.
Mama made it. And you know what, ladies? I'm pretty sure you're making all of your mothers proud, your fathers proud, your spouses, your siblings. I appreciate you ladies for coming on and having this conversation with me about your name, about saying her name, about where we are right now in America, the stories that are being told. And you ladies are doing a phenomenal job on influencing those before us and after. I want to encourage you all to continue to create those stories. They're going to evoke emotion. That's going to celebrate us. It's going to show us in a great, beautiful light. And I'm going to encourage you, even in your personal journeys, to obtain all those great goals that you want to reach. Take some breathers in between and celebrate yourself. I know that, we can't really figure out, like Leigh say, wait, do I celebrate now? Do I celebrate this? Like, celebrate yourself, a couple times a year, and then get back to work. And I look forward to seeing you all back here, in Atlanta next summer for Black Writers Week. When we're gonna have the biggest party. It's gonna be time. Like, everybody's gonna be wanting to get out. So everybody named Mama. That's what I'm calling next year's thing. Everybody named Mama. Come on out. But continue to create, ladies. Let everybody know where they can find you. And then tell everybody where they can discover your latest project.
I am at Leigh on social media things. I don't use social media things, but if you would like to find
I was looking at you like, really?
Girl, I told you I worked on the internet for about 10 years, right. and I know it's a bad place, so I avoid it like the plague. But I do have accounts called Leigh Dav if you want to find me. Also, just email me. I've had the same phone number for 20 years. Text me.
Oh Lord, your communication is so ancient.
I know. I'm like,
email
I've literally had the same phone number since I was 17. It's not hard to get in touch with me.
Wow.
My show will be on Stars. The Gabby movie will be on Netflix. I'm around. I'm very easy to find. So
congratulations again on your project.
Thank you.
And again, we will be watching and supporting.
Thanks, guys.
Your daughter is super cute. I'm like on your Instagram right now. Just kidding.
Oh,
yeah, like,
really? Creep? That's creepy.
I
mean, let me go and look too.
On her way to make her cameo.
Let me go and look too. Let me be nosy. Oh, it's the first picture too. It is. She is adorable.
So cute. Oh my gosh. Hey, baby. Look at her.
Say hi.
Oh my goodness.
All right, but she is on Instagram, y'all. So
she's waving at us.
Oh.
Hi, little future Selmanite.
Exactly. You already know.
I didn't have any. I didn't get to, like, I have only just little Morehouse men. Like, I don't have that.
Hey, you still have time.
No, I do not. No, ma'am. I certainly don't. And I'm not ruining this liposuction. How about that?
Oh my gosh.
Tell him, girl.
All right. Nick Stone. Tell everybody where they can find you.
I'm at Nick Stone on Instagram and at Get Nick on Twitter. NICSTONE Instagram. GETNICCED on Twitter. Don't bother with Twitter because, like, I hate Twitter, but Instagram I actually really like. And I do love Twitter. I post things on Instagram.
So now I'm gonna start bugging you on Twitter.
So you'll go like weeks without a response.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I don't even get on there. I'm just saying. I'm
gonna turn you a new leaf. And your latest project. Tell us where your latest project, where they can go and obtain that.
Dear Justice is out September 29th. Available everywhere. I'm actually getting to have this everywhere. I'm having the 29th will be like the Nick Stone Target takeover because I have 3 books that will hit Target stores at the same time. Dear Justice, the Jackpot paperback, and Shuri will all hit Target on the 29th. I'm like, yo, just give me like a wrap.
I love it.
For like a week, just for like a week, I'll take it, and that'll be my new biggest accomplishment.
Yeah, your new, and another accomplishment. I was gonna throw this in. And I remember one time you had a commercial. That was in the Target store.
I did. Oh yeah, there's one right now. There's a Shuri one.
See, there's another one. See?
Yeah.
Go ahead with your black girl power. I love it. Kim, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on social media at KC Johnson Writes. I'll be off Twitter soon too. I just need to give me a couple of weeks, but I'll be off. I like Instagram too. And then you can find my book. When this is out, you can go anywhere. You can find it anywhere. So
on Tuesday, by the way.
Tuesday.
That's a week from today. a week
Yeah.
from
which would
today.
be because you know this
That's
is
to speak out my
pre-recorded.
back.
So
It'll
that's
be
August.
pre-recorded, but it came out.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's in the
a month
store.
ago.
So y'all go get it.
So I'm in the middle. I'm in it, you all. I'm so in it right now. It's oof.
Well, I definitely want to touch base with you and talk about your experience 1 week after release. So we're gonna touch base so we can,
Definitely.
get your reactions. So congratulations on that.
Yes.
I'm excited
Thank
for you.
Thank you.
Miss Kalisha, tell us about your latest project and then where we can find you.
Well, I'm finishing a new novel that I've just gotten great feedback from my agent about the writing in it, so I'm very excited. And so, yeah, that, and also trying to get a play off the ground, a minimalist play off the ground that I've had for years, and never given the proper attention to. But my website is kalisha.com, just my name, which I got 22 years ago because I needed an email address from Yahoo. And they asked, at that moment, would you like to buy a domain? And I paid $5 for it. And I was like, sure. I didn't even know what a domain was, but I just wanted my own name. Look at my name. And yeah, like that's it where you can
pretty cool.
get everything and all. Yeah, just Khalid. And I was like, I just want my name. And so, yeah, so usually on social media, it's my name or Khalid, but I'm with Leigh. I don't think that the internet is horrible because we're here now. There are beautiful aspects of it I love, but I'm not necessarily in it a lot. So, because I like to work. And so, yeah, but I definitely am in there and look through it.
I love it. I love when you say I like to work, and social media definitely is a distraction. And everybody, my name is Tamika Newhouse. You can find me at Tamika Newhouse on Twitter and Instagram. My website is tamikanewhouse.com, and that's like NEWHOUSE. And my latest project is Sugar, not Sugar, but Sugar Hill, a Love Jones tale, and it's on Amazon, Kindle, my personal website. I ain't everywhere, like Nick and Kim and Kalisha, but I will be. So thank you all again for being a part of this conversation. Continue to be blessed, be safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, and I will see you guys post-COVID.
Bye.
Thank you.